the rare benevolent supernatural beings that once aided the Oldrey line of hunters. According to the Oldrey writings, while the vast majority of the supernatural were predatory to mankind, there were exceptions. Raphael Caron was made into an undying knight by occult means. After fighting valiantly through the First Crusade, he went on to found the Sons of Man Order of Hunters and Exorcists, remaining the Church's undead superweapon for centuries. While all other known vampires were malicious predators, the vampire Alexandra used her supernatural abilities to hunt her own kind, aiding other such hunters up to this very day. Abraham the Golem, a being created through ancient Hebrew magic. Golems were living statues of man, created as guardians. Abraham was made from a sculpture of an African god and assigned as the protector of a 19th century Romani caravan. The rarest form of werewolves were the Krisnik. Hunters themselves taught magic abilities by fae called Vila, including the ability to shapeshift and channel wolf spirits. There are also writings of benevolent interactions with mermaids, even accounts of them saving human lives, including hunter Harold Oldrey, and of course the many heroic witches, such as Bridget, the avatar of her goddess namesake, and emissary of the fae, many of which were benevolent themselves as well. Abraham the Golem. The Golem is a being of ancient myth and one of the oldest monsters of film. A single true golem is mentioned in the writings of the Oldrey line of hunters, one of the very rare benevolent supernatural beings. He was called Abraham by the group he protected. Golems were created through an ancient ritual of Hebrew magic. They were clay or stone guardians brought to life by rabbis to protect their people. They are also the subject of one of the earliest horror films, 1920's Der Golem. When Harold Oldrey encountered him, Abraham was serving as guardian to a wandering Romani band that considered him family. Years prior, this band had come upon a lost elderly rabbi. The old man wandered the forest alone, suffering extreme dementia. The Romani people took him in and cared for him as one of their own. In a lucid spell, near the end of his life, the rabbi set upon an old statue carried in one of the carts and used the religious magic he'd learned in life to make it a living golem, a parting gift to protect the people who so protected him. For in that time and place, there was more than just men to protect from, and the fists of a golem strike as debilitating to supernatural evil as the holiest of artifacts of any faith. How did Alexandra become so entwined with the Oldrey family of hunters? She had been a vampire herself since the early 1700s, but even though she hunted her own kind, she would eventually find herself a prisoner inside St. George's Keep, alongside more vampires and many other supernatural creatures. However, she would shortly capture the attention of Reinhold Oldrey, a paladin knight and high-ranking guard within the dungeon. After learning of her work hunting her own kind, Reinhold freed her from the dungeon. 2 generations later, she would work closely with Harold Oldrey Jr., the first Oldrey with no connection to nor protection from the Sons of Man Order. Regardless, he continued the family work, focusing on vampires. This would lead to their paths crossing at some point in the 1890s, either because of Reinhold's past assistance or the family's reputation in general. She elected to assist and educate the man, teaching him the many secrets of her kind that no one else could. The truth of elder vampires, and the means of slaying any and all different varieties. Most importantly, she taught of haunters, ethereal vampire spirits connected to individuals or groups. One such of these haunters, unbeknownst to Harold Jr. himself, was already connected to the Oldrey line of slayers. Alexandra identified him as Horst Lindstrom, a once noble German vampire, sired by Dmitri Fedeska himself. Horst remains attached to the family bloodline to this day, as seen here in this video. And Alexandra continues to assist, sending me these photos of herself and more. An ancient magical flower that dripped with human blood, once used to satiate bloodthirsty monsters. Before that, cultivated in a secret monastery, eventually used by a vampire that hunted her own kind. Through secret books chained in Hereford Cathedral Library, I've learned the full story of this mysterious plant held by Alexandra to this day. Real vampires need human blood, Without it, they'll soon turn savage and take it by any means necessary. It has never been terribly difficult for them to acquire through their conventional means. However, a vampire wishing to live without taking life had few options, with high maintenance. With one apparent exception, Alexandra's hunter master placed atop the stack of dossiers left for her in his manor a report of a Mediterranean village that once placed bleeding roses to appease violent bloodthirsty monsters called striges, described as owl-like creatures that drink human blood. The earlier history of this magical flower species goes to an ancient monastery in Crete, cultivated by a group of vampire monks hoping to live in peace. Supposedly only one specimen of this flower still exists, serving as the most important tool in Alexandra's arsenal, allowing her to regularly feed through the centuries without harming the innocent, and making it far less likely that she would develop into an elder. There was once a secret order of priests within the Catholic Church with magical abilities akin to what we might call witchcraft or sorcery, called high exorcists. These priests once formed a large part of the backbone of the secret Sons of Man order. It was said they could wield the power of God in their hands, as well as imbue it into people and objects, as they were set to do in the creation of paladin knights, who donned suits of armor imbued with the power of the Lord, in a magical tradition dating back to Charlemagne, celebrated to this day. They were also instrumental in the capture and holding of demonic entities. Visible here are their magical binding sigils meant to hold such things in place. This power would also often be infused into weapons and other holy relics for protection purposes. Just as with the many holy items I still hold in my home, magically blessed by high exorcist allies of my ancestors, the Oldreys. They were also said to be able to draw on the power of various types of angelic beings, said to be able to call them down in confrontation with demonic forces. I know not what, if any, of this practice still exists today, but it certainly seems like something the modern church would intentionally stamp out. Gargoyles. This is a topic I've been meaning to get to for a long time now. I get asked about these creatures pretty regularly on my channel, and I hesitate to say creatures for a good reason. Now, I think a lot of people's idea of what a gargoyle is comes from this popular Disney cartoon and possibly this TV movie from 1972. You'll notice actual gargoyles don't look anything like those that you see popularly in those shows, movies, and even gargoyle Halloween decorations, as you can see here. Gargoyle is just a term for a carved or formed grotesque with a spout designed to convey water from a roof and away from the side of a building, basically to prevent water damage, an architectural feature. Now, grotesque is the name for these carved figures that look like mythical monsters, chimeras, sometimes something demonic even. But as you can see again here, the real ones don't really look anything like the popular winged interpretation. They are, however, often described as being used to ward off evil. Similar to ancient ideas of apotropic magic, objects or symbols meant to turn away evil power, evil influence. These were never believed to be actual, any kind of real creature, not even in supernatural occult circles. I will note, however, this supposed photo of what was called a primeval vampire, believed to be the original form of the curse, does bear a striking resemblance to some people's ideas of what a gargoyle would be, as do some supposedly summoned physical demons.